Hello. So I thought I would show you how I set up OBS for streaming and recording, because I know that some people aren't really that technical and have some issues setting it up correctly. And I use different profiles in OBS, one for streaming and one for recording. Streaming is to Twitch and recording is for YouTube. And why I have different profiles is that because I have different settings depending on streaming, especially the resolution and the bitrate and some other settings. So right now I have selected the Twitch profile, also the scene selection, same here, Twitch. So I start with the streaming settings first here. And yeah, I know I have a lot of different audio bars here, and that's because I have this special mixer where I separate different audio sources like music, Discord and stuff, which makes it a lot easier to adjust the volume on. For example, if I have music, I can change the volume of that automatically in OBS, what goes out to the stream. But you won't really have this many. You might have regular desktop audio and the microphone. But anyway, let's go to the settings here to the right. You get this window, and in the general section here, nothing I do, you can select the theme. I like the dark theme. Stream, kind of important if you're going to stream to Twitch. And first of all, of course, service. You can select Twitch, YouTube, Mixer, whatever. But this is for Twitch. Server. The recommendation is to select the one closest to where you live. I live in Sweden, and there's only one in Sweden, so that's in Stockholm. Further down here you have United States, for example, different servers. And of course your Twitch stream key, so that you stream to your channel. And on the output, by default it's set to the output mode here to simple, but I select advanced here, so you get a little bit more settings. And then you get these different tabs, and since this is the streaming, I focus on the streaming tab here, or button. And encoder, you have different options here depending on if you have an NVIDIA card, a relatively new one, you can use the NVENC, which stands for NVIDIA encoder, which means that the graphics card will do a lot of the encoding. And that might be actually pretty good if you have sort of an old computer that doesn't really perform that well. You can of course have X264, but that's a lot more heavier on the CPU, your processor. For example, when I used this, the OBS CPU usage were about between 30 and 40% when I used the X264. And when I changed to NVENC, it dropped down to about 10% CPU usage. So yeah, that's, if you have the NVENC option, I recommend to do that actually. It's a good one. And then the rate control, you can have different options. Recommendation from Twitch is CBR, which stands for constant bitrate. And here you have the bitrate, and Twitch recommendation, it should be somewhere between 2 and 6 megabits. And 6 megabit, that is 6,000 kilobits. And you have to type kilobits in here. So if you want to stream, as I do, 5.5 megabit, that would be 5500 here. And this of course depends on your internet connection, and it should be your upload speed, not your download, your upload, because you're sending information to Twitch. And you might have like 50 megabit down, but only 10 megabit upload. And I don't recommend to go above half your upload speed here. So if you have like 10 megabits, don't go above 5 or 5000 here over here. A normal stream, good stream, might be about 3000. It's a decent bitrate. I wouldn't recommend going underneath 2000 unless you have a really bad internet connection. But I select 5500. I recommend around between 3000 and 4000 over here. Keyframe set to 2, also recommended by Twitch. I set preset high quality, profile main. Of course, you click on it to change. And the level, I set it to 4.2 as well. And GPU, that stands for graphics processor unit. And if you have multiple graphics card in your computer, you can select which one of them that should do the encoding. I only have one graphics card, so it should be set to 0. So that's the first and one and only graphics card I have. B-frame set it to 2. But if you want to use the X264 setting, kind of same thing here. Constant bitrate. Set it to keyframe. CPU usage very fast. Profile, I think it should be set to high. And you don't need to do any tune with that. So yeah, but I just use NVENC because it's not that heavy on the CPU, your processor. Then of course click apply to save it. And then we go to the audio section here. You can the sample rate and channels, keep it as default, stereo and so on. And this looks a little bit different for me than for you, perhaps. The desktop audio device, which would be like the game audio and stuff, is just use the default. Same thing with the microphone, you can select your headset or whatever. But that's kind of the most important, is the desktop audio and your microphone. And then just apply. That's the audio, and then we come to the video, and this is kind of important as well. You see here it says base canvas resolution set to 1920 by 1080. And what is the base canvas? Well, the canvas is basically this black area here, this window. And you put your game sources here, your overlays and whatnot, different windows here. And that's the main resolution. But I don't want to stream in 1080. I don't recommend anyone doing that either, unless you have a good computer and a good stable internet connection. If you have an older computer, don't go above 720. And you can either type it here, you have an arrow here, you can select it, which resolution you want. I recommend 720. I think the default setting here is the bilinear. You can keep it at default. And then you have your frame rate. that you want to stream. 720 30 FPS is good enough for most people. And here comes the train. I use 60 FPS and that's kind of basically it. You can have hotkeys. For example, if you can press a key to start streaming and stop streaming as well. And you can also, if you have different games, you can press a button to switch between the scenes. For example, if you have the one that Elgato, what's it called, Stream Deck or whatever it's called, so you can have different buttons to click and switch between scenes. I don't use that, but if you want to play around with that, you can do that. And for example, if you want to mute your microphone, you can do that with pressing a button. Advanced. The only thing I change here is the color format to I420 and YUV color space 709. And that's it. So that's the settings I have for streaming. And of course the most important here is the streaming tab here. Select the encoder you want and the bitrate, stuff like that, like this. And also select the correct audio sources and then the video. And you are good to go. And when you're here, of course, you need to add a game. Right here you can have different scenes. For example, I have the desktop over here. Hello. And Minecraft and Euro Truck Simulator. I was thinking of a different name. But you can add a scene here. You can just add another one. For example, add. For example, Diablo, for example. You can have different overlays and stuff depending on your game or whatnot. So, new scene, and there's no sources here yet. And over here you add your overlays and stuff and your game. I just right click here, select add. If you want to add a game, you go down and select game capture. Poof. And you might already have added before, so you can select add existing, for example here. So you just add that, but I don't have, for example, this name here, it can't be the same name as your scene. So I just name it game so that I know it's the game source. Okay. And then we should have specific window. Yeah, capture specific window. And then the window should be, I have actually Minecraft started here, and then it shows up. And here you can see the Minecraft window. You can move it around. And it looks kind of small. If you start streaming like this, your viewers will be having some black bars. So what you can do here is to right click on it and go to transform. And then down here you have a fit to screen. Now it will be maxed out. Of course you can change the window size manually by dragging these lines here. And you should also think about the kind of resolution you have in your game as well, because let's see if I go to fit screen. Now it actually fits. That's kind of good. But sometimes it's kind of cut off. For example, let's actually delete this one. Yes. For example, I have the game over here, and I have a little special software here called Sizer. So I can set specific resolutions. For example, Minecraft 720, so that the inside game here will be 1280 by 720. Because if I just set this to 720, 1280 by 720, this entire window, including this white bar here, will be, it's the outer border. So the inside game will be kind of weird. So if I edit this, you see that's the resolution. So that the outside border will be this. So if I go, you see these two arrows. If I right click here, you get the menu here. I can select which resolution I want, for example 720. So now the inside here will be 1280 by 720. I can also select higher, but I keep it to this right now. So add game capture, game, okie, and just get the specific window and the Minecraft. And you can see the canvas is 1080p, but the game is 720p, so that's why you can also drag it out like this if you want to, but don't drag it out like that. And if you want some different overlays, you can add images. And if you want to have the Streamlabs, you know, the follower alert, the browser. Okay. And then you add the link to that Streamlabs link over here. Yeah. That's kind of how you set it up with the different scenes and stuff. And that's the streaming. So let's go to the YouTube actually. Switch both here. And I have the desktop, you can see. I also have Chrome if I just want to show you the web browser. But I'll show you the settings for recording. The only thing a change here, what you can do is here in the profile, you see you have duplicate. If you are on the Twitch like this, if you want to keep all the volume settings and stuff, you can actually go to profile and select duplicate, and it will duplicate every single setting. And what you do next is go to the new kind of stuff and go to settings. And the only thing this difference here is that it doesn't have any stream key, because this is the recording profile. And if you go to the output, you should not go to the streaming, you should now go to the recording tab and recording path. So you can select where to save your recordings. I save my recordings to a different separate drive here. So that. And for recordings, I actually just use the X264 encoder here. Rate control, CBR, constant bitrate. And here you can see I got a lot higher bitrate, because this will be for YouTube. So you can have a lot higher bitrates. So this is 24 megabits. And I have that high because I actually record in 1080p, 60 FPS. So it looks a lot better. The keyframe is different, it's set to 1 instead of 2. CPU usage faster, you can have it to very fast if you want to. Profile high, tune 0. So that's the only difference that I have. Audio is the same. Yeah, the difference here is also the resolution. Instead of having 720p, I have 1080p and also 60 FPS. But right now I'm just recording the desktop. You see it's only using about 50% of my CPU. But if you record a game, the game also takes processing power. So yeah, that's kind of the only recording I have. Otherwise, kind of the same settings as the streaming. I don't have any stream, yeah, like that. So yeah, this is kind of my settings for streaming and recording. So this is why I have different profiles, because I have different output resolution here. So yeah, it's kind of easy just to switch, and I have different scenes and stuff as well. So yeah, and if you want to add the monitor, this is the desktop. You can add, for example, I have a second monitor. So let's see, I will actually do, if you want to capture your desktop, you just select display capture and just name it like this, and you can select here. If you have multiple monitors here, you can select which monitor to can do. So yeah, that's how you kind of do it. So yeah, that's my settings. I hope I made some sense at least. So see you later.